Zverev, he has been grumbling about the court speed. Based on what Federer came out and said recently about the courts being slowed down to benefit Sinner and Alcaraz, as per this theory. Zverev basically echoed that and agreed with what Federer was saying, and just basically saying, you have to play the same way on every surface. There's no variety. There's don't have that difference in game styles and surfaces anymore. And the tournament organizers are just trying to favor Alcaraz and Sinner. What did you make of his comments? Are you do you agree, or do you think it just sounds a bit like he's whinging because he's not been so good on the old results lately? Joel?
I mean, I take his point that I think the court speeds have slowed. And I think actually, if you look at the court speeds of the Masters 1000s events, it looks like from the statistics that are being kind of shared online, Shanghai has markedly down from last year. 32.8 down from 42.4. For context, 32.8 makes this a kind of slow medium court, whereas 42.4 would be medium fast. So I do think he sort of has a point, but I don't necessarily think that organizers are doing this just for Alcaraz and Sinner. I wonder if it's more kind of from a fan point of view and putting on a great show and making sure there's lots of kind of extended rallies and they can see the most of two opponents on a tennis court. So it's hard to agree with his kind of full statement. And to me, it's more not just about kind of court speed. It's about kind of adaptability and for players and, seeing, challenging them in terms of how they can, adapt to all these different types of surfaces. And I think that's what's frustrating, for Zverev, because it feels like maybe he just plays the same brand of tennis, whatever tennis court he steps on.
That's actually
Yeah.
what the stats say. I was going to say, Joel,
Oh.
in terms of Sinner, Alcaraz, and Zverev, Zverev actually plays the most similar in terms of the
Wow.
data side of things across all court surfaces and tournaments, whereas we've seen a lot more variety in terms of the adaptation that you've mentioned of going more aggressive or a bit more defensive at times from Sinner and Alcaraz. So they actually are changing things up a little bit more than Zverev is, who says that all the courts play the same when actually he's playing the same. So I think he is one to blame everyone but himself on many occasions. And I think we're all in agreement that tournament directors do want a Sinner Alcaraz final. I think that's pretty clear because that is the 1v2, that is the blockbuster match. So I think that's where it does become a bit too much of a stretch that their activity being slowed down, especially when some tournaments it does show that to be true, but the majority, the evidence isn't necessarily for that because we've had changes in locations. Miami changed location, Canada changes every year. It does just make me think that people are jumping on the bandwagon that Roger Federer has now paved the way for them to under the security of Federer having said it. And maybe they always wanted to say that they thought tournaments were favouring them, but court speed's all they could actually muster at this stage to kind of explain it.
I mean, it feels like the point has been exacerbated at this moment in the season. It's a long season. We're at one of the final Masters events of the year, and we've got one of the slowest
In the toughest conditions, right?
toughest conditions. Yeah,
I
not
do
ideal.
empathise in that respect, but I mean, Sinner didn't make it through, and neither did Zverev. So I'm not sure for Shanghai this favours any of their top talent actually. And we're talking about who might be the one to break through and win it, or who might survive, which is not the brand of tennis that Masters want to be kind of putting on their posters of if you feel fit, play it. If you don't, skip it.
It's almost like going back to before, when we were growing up, the Masters finals were best of five sets, and they decided to get rid of that because it was too much, too much on with the schedule, and just kind of asking too much of players at the end of a tournament. And we're not obviously there anymore, but it still feels like with some tournaments like Shanghai, it's so slow, and you're bringing that physical toil onto the players in a completely different way.
Well, Zverev hasn't adapted well because he lost to Rinderknech today. So
The French number one, maybe? No, not yet. We never know.
Maybe we'll see if, Alex de Minaur, maybe Musetti, Medvedev, even one of them
Felix,
can come away.
I'm thinking.
Felix, Djokovic, still plenty of...
Musetti has won the most Masters matches bar Alcaraz this season.
It's
really?
crazy.
Yeah, no titles though, so just saying.
It's about when you win it, yeah. Well, let's see how Shanghai gets on. Will we have any more, big retirements? Let's hope not. And let's see how the court speed debate continues in the coming weeks.